Hello there and welcome to Point of View. I'm Mark Leishman and my guest today is Jules Benton, Chief Executive of the Dairy Women's Network. As Chief Executive of the 10,000 strong membership organisation, she's responsible for representing and championing Dairy Women's Network and dairy women at an industry level and of course focusing on the strategic steps into the future. Her passion is for connecting and making a difference in dairy, and she has people at the heart of who and what the Dairy Women Network is. I'm very pleased to welcome Jules Benton to the program. Jules, lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you too, Mark. Would have been nice to sit side by side, but hey, we've got the second best thing.
That's right, we do what we do. The old Zoom, thank goodness for the Zoom. I mean, imagine if we didn't have this, how hard the COVID experience would have been.
Absolutely. It's certainly been a way that we've been connecting with our members throughout this time.
Now, I look back over the history. Your career with the DWN, the Dairy Women's Network, started in about 2018. How's the journey been so far? What have you learnt, do you think, from working with all these wonderful dairy women?
Yeah, it's been a really incredible journey. I feel grateful to be part of this industry, and you know, you learn every day. And I think it's, you know, the innovation that's happening within our dairy farms throughout New Zealand. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of change, but seeing people embrace that change. So, yeah, there's some challenges, but also challenges are one thing. It's how you adapt to those challenges. And, yeah, as I said, every day you learn. And much of what I learned in my previous careers has really come into play as well. So around that people and learning and sharing of knowledge.
I've been doing my job here at Country TV for about 13 years now, believe it or not. I can't believe it's gone by so quickly, but I detect a change in the sense when I started, even back in late 2008, dairy women were probably not recognised for actually working on the farm. They possibly weren't even recognised as partners, but I suggest that has well and truly changed now, where these, some of them very big dairy companies, and it's a husband and wife team in many occasions, isn't it? And their role is absolutely pivotal.
That's right, Mark. And it's a true business relationship. So there's two parts to it, really. I suppose they have that on-farm business partnership, and then they have that personal partnership, which is whether they're partners in life or business partners, whatever that is. And they also bring different strengths to the business, don't they? So when you look at that, we're seeing that these farming businesses, if it's a husband and wife or whatever the situation, it's like any business. You bring your core strengths, and then you embrace the other strengths that are around you, and that's certainly what we see in our farming businesses throughout New Zealand.
Is the word W for women, is that still vital? I mean, is it only about women in dairy, as far as you're concerned?
Good question, Mark. Look, we are an inclusive organisation. We see a lot of men come along to our events, and we welcome them, and they're very much part of who we are and what we do. Back in 23 years ago, when Dairy Women's Network was formed by four incredible women who still are heavily involved and attend and support, which is just fabulous. There was really nothing around at that time for them. And so they carved their own sort of niche organisation, I suppose. And that, who would have thought 23 years on that we've grown and we're still here and still making a difference, which is really, really important. But absolutely, the guys are really welcome, and we do see them at many of our events. Interestingly enough, Mark, when you talk to the guys, they're pretty happy for their wives and partners to come along to the events, and they know about Dairy Women's Network. And our following on social media has a very, very high male presence. So yeah, don't ever be fooled that while it says that in the name, they're keeping an eye on us and also attending our events, which is great.
Well, you have just about as many members as Fonterra has shareholders, really. So it's pretty grand.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fonterra, one of our partners, they support us and have done so for a number of years. Fantastic partner, and heavily invested from from the board down, and we're really fortunate that Donna Schmidt, who's on our board, is also on the Fonterra board. So we're incredibly lucky as an organisation to have the people and the organisations within the industry supporting us, and I think that's what's been driving and will continue to see our success.
So does a huge company like Fonterra, what sort of involvement? Is it just they support you in terms of money, or do they have more involvement than that?
So obviously they support us financially, which is, we call ourselves, we are a not-for-profit, or, that other terminology, an organisation of impact. And I think that's a nice way of, we do want to have an impact with our farming businesses. But they support us in the ways of through our workshops, so sharing of knowledge, which is really important, and taking our members on that journey as well. So what they're doing within the co-op, and how do they help their suppliers be better business owners, better farmers, and then obviously probably one of the key highlights is that they support Fonterra Dairy Woman of the Year. And they support that by way of a $20,000 scholarship, and that's for a woman who's contributing to the industry to further her leadership development and journey. So very, very generous with their support of Dairy Women's Network.
But it's not only Fonterra. Tell us about some of your other current collaborations.
Certainly. So we've got a really strong focus going forward in 2022 around technology. As you will know, that we do have a real people shortage in New Zealand, as we do in many industries across our trades, rural contractors. We've been working with them closely, New Zealand vets, shearers, forestry. So we have a people shortage, and that, obviously with borders being closed, we haven't had the international workers here in New Zealand. So I think technology will play a really important part for the future of farming, as it already is. And we definitely need people. We didn't get time to plan for border closures. So that's put a real strain on our farming businesses. But where technology really plays an important part is that old saying is work smarter, not harder. So use the tools that are out there to give you back some time. And if that time is spending more on-farm time, or spending more time off-farm with your family and doing the things that you really love, I think that's where we're going to see a real shift. And certainly what we'll be sharing in 2022 are the tools and technology that can help you with your farming business, from the office right through to robotics on farm.
Do you have other sort of sponsors as well, other main sponsors?
Absolutely. So ASB Bank have been with Dairy Women's Network as a partner for a number of years, and heavily invested with us from a learning perspective. So we've been doing a lot of online learning with them and sharing that webinar format, which who would have thought a number of years ago that we would be seeing such huge numbers come along to online learning. But it's been really, really important for us to still connect with our members, but also share that knowledge with them. We are doing sustainability workshops with ASB in 2022, so we're just framing that up now, and they will be throughout New Zealand, and they're also conference supporters. And we're fortunate because we've got the rural team throughout New Zealand that can be part of our community events as well. So, and then we've got Balance Agri Nutrients and Seals Winslow and Figured and Zero have just come on as a partner, so we've been ramping up workshops with them. So it's just, we're so fortunate, and we don't call them sponsors, we call them partners, because it is a true partnership. It's got to be mutually beneficial, but it's also about value alignment of organisations back to Dairy Women's Network.
So, I mean, can you tell me sort of in average terms of what sort of people log on, do your online webinars, etc.? Do you get big numbers?
Yeah, we have been seeing really big numbers at our Make Time for Your People, and that's really where the people shortage is. Just if you've got good team members, or a team member, making sure that it's easier to retain than it is to find new team members. So we've been running a series of workshops, and we did those face-to-face at the beginning of this year, and they were really successful. And we're fortunate that MPI saw how successful they were and then provided another round of funding. So we've been able to do those, and the intention was that we would do those face-to-face. That didn't quite happen, so we've taken those online, and I think over the workshops we had 520 people register for those workshops. And look, the beauty about an online workshop is if you are busy on farm or something happens, then you still get that recording afterwards. And even if you do attend that online learning webinar, you have the recording afterwards. So there's a real upside benefit to online learning. I suppose the thing that we miss is that human connection.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely, isn't it? We're discovering that Zoom's all very well, but there's that, regardless, there's that sort of barrier that it's hard to break through. And, you know, the little nuances that you get when you're face to face make a difference in communication, don't they?
Absolutely. And it's really important to get off farm. Look, it's important to get away from any business or workplace. And it's where you have time to connect and share, take time to breathe. Because, you know, people have busy lives, particularly on farm. So making the effort to get off farm and come to a learning experience or workshop is really important. And it's where connections and relationships are born and nurtured. So 2022, let's under the traffic light system, where all systems go.
Fantastic. Green for go. Well, not quite, but soon. Anyway, look, we'll have a wee bit of a break. I want to get on to the conference next year, what is in store for Brighter, Braver, Bolder, the conference theme. Looking forward to chatting to you about that after the break. My guest, the Chief Executive of the Dairy Women's Network in New Zealand, Jules Benton. We'll be back shortly here on Point of View. Welcome back. This is Point of View. I'm Mark Leishman, and my guest is the Chief Executive of DWN, Dairy Women's Network, and Jules Benton. So Jules, DWN 2022, this is the conference, Brighter, Braver, Bolder. Now, is it going to be live in front of real people, or is it going to be online again? I suppose you don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think we're pretty bold, aren't we, Mark, preparing for a conference in 2022, but we were talking about this the other day, and we went, Dairy Women's Network is an organisation of action, and we have to move forward, and we have to move forward with that confidence that we will be in front of people next year down in the deep south in Invercargill and beginning of April. And look, if we've got a plan B and we've been there before, we can take it online. So everything that we have planned, we can take online. Where we miss out is that time of connection, and also celebrating the Fonterra Dairy Woman of the Year and the FMG Regional Leader of the Year. So the celebrate and the party time, which is always good for people to come out. So the conference is really focusing around the farm, the business, the people, and the community. So 4 key pillars, and some great keynote speakers, along with some really interactive, practical workshops. So we try and mix it up for conference and provide variety.
So tell me, when was the last conference? Was it 2020?
We did sneak in this year. We did in 2020. No, in 2021. We were bold, and we actually went for 3 regional conferences. So we started off in Taupo, and then we ended up in Ashburton, and we wound up in Queenstown. So we travelled the country and we pulled it off. So we tried to bring a little bit more of a regional flavour. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. And it's not to say that we wouldn't do that again, but it made complete sense for us as an organisation just to do one in 2022. And so we're heading to the deep south. We haven't been to Invercargill for a number of years. We want to go back to the South Island, and that's where we're landing at the beginning of April.
Well, I looked at your website, and I tell you what, when you say brighter, braver, and bolder, it stands out. I mean, it's pink beyond pink, really, isn't it? The conference, and it really is quite effective. It it really zeroes you in.
Yeah, it certainly does. And, colours are, they create a good sense of feeling. It is very pink. We try and mix it up a little bit. We try and tone it down. And conference always has a theme, and as you alluded to, it's brighter, braver, and bolder. And we came up that we had a number of workshops to really sort of plan out conference. So it's not just what we think here at DWN. It's we get partners involved. So we had a big day at FMG Stadium in the Waikato where we got all our partners involved. We had some amazing conversations. And we brought in the likes of Julia Jones as well, who's head of analytics at NZX. So she was like passionate about the industry. So we try and bring in a variety of viewpoints and what's relevant, what do they need to know, what do farming businesses need to know now, but what are we thinking about in the future? And then we go back to grassroots and we ask our members, what do you want from a conference perspective? And then we ask the board, and then we collate all of that feedback. And that's where we came up with the brighter, braver, bolder and the 4 key pillars. And that's what we're focusing on. So lots of variety, lots of learning, lots of fun, lots of stretching of imagination, and thought-provoking.
Now, you mentioned already the 2 big awards. Could you tell us a little bit more about those? I know the new one's the regional award, but of course the Dairy Woman of the Year is such a prestigious award these days, isn't it?
Absolutely. So $20,000 scholarship, which is supported by Fonterra, and that is a woman that's in the industry, that's on a leadership journey, that wants to further that leadership journey. And that provides $20,000 investment in that future and giving back to the industry through that learning. And we've had a number of phenomenal women that have been recipients of that award go on to do really, really great things for the industry. And for 2022, the nominations are open now, and it's a fairly seamless process to go through to nominate somebody. And we all know so many people out there that are doing great things for the industry. And we quite often, Mark, get multiple nominations for the same person. It's interesting when you go out to those people that have been nominated, and they're absolutely shocked when we say to them, look, you've been nominated, or you've been nominated by 3 different people, because they don't see themselves, and that they're very humble. And so to recognise one of these women is just so important, not only for their journey, but also for others within the industry and for the dairy industry as a whole.
So what about the Regional Leader Award? Why did you see a need for that?
So regional leaders, we have regional leaders throughout New Zealand that help Dairy Women's Network run our events, so that face-to-face workshops, and they also do a huge amount in their communities. So we needed to recognise them, because it's a volunteer role, and probably many of our volunteers are volunteers on the school board, the sports team, and everything else that goes on in rural communities. So it's acknowledging those women as well. And FMG saw that as a really natural fit for them to support. So the nominations are open now for Regional Leader of the Year, and many communities will know who the volunteer regional leaders are for Dairy Women's Network. But everything's up on our website. It's, as I said, it's a seamless process to nominate.
Any other initiatives that you have in the books, Jules?
So we've been working really closely with Dairy NZ and Federated Farmers just to really make sure that we have a strong plan in place to get people on farms in New Zealand in 2022. We've seen a lot of pressure. Obviously, I mentioned earlier that we had no warning that the borders were going to close, and what was done had to be done. But what we do need people, because many of these farming businesses cannot continue to work with the shortages people that they have currently. So we've come up with a plan, and we've also worked closely with Shearers Association, rural contractors, New Zealand vets, because they're all seeing huge people shortages. And we've presented a plan to Minister O'Connor to have a discussion, but also to make sure that we can tie in getting people on farm ready for 2022 before that busy calving season. So they go through the visa process. They go through the immigration process, and then whatever we have to do from an MIQ or home quarantine perspective, we can put those plans in place. So that's been a real key focus for us, working with DWN and Federated Farmers, who have really been championing this for the industry, and we're absolutely supporting that. We are part of the Dairy Tomorrow strategy, and as we are with all the main dairy processors, and that's led by DWN, and that's looking for a better farming, better, like a future focus on 6 key goals. And as I said earlier, that we've got a real technology focus and people focus in 2022, and we'll continue with our online learning as well, because sometimes you just can't get away from farms. So we've introduced that. It's been well received, and we will continue that going forward.
Intriguing, the thought of the current mood of your members. When you look at good prices for most of the sectors really now, fantastic in fact, but at the same time, of course, real problems with the supply chain and the cost of things just going through the roof. So it's a mixed bag, isn't it? But what generally would you say is the mood of members?
I think they're cautiously optimistic, but also really focusing on planning and looking forward to the future. So we are hearing things like they have been able to pay down some debt. And so now looking forward to investing in that farming business and making sure that the farm is, they're planning for the future. I think that's one of the great things about bringing Xero and Figured on board as a partner, is using really smart tools, particularly Figured, because they can build out budgets, they can do some future forecasting and planning. And that's what the banks want to see. The farmers own the budgets, not the banks. So if we get all of those things lined up, good payout, good balance sheet, profitable businesses, looking after your people. Look, I know it's a big shopping list, but hey, we're no different, are we, to many other businesses? Yes, I know dairying is a 7-day a week, 365 days a year. But, many other sort of SMEs are going through these, similar challenges, but it's about planning and being prepared and having a really good farming team off farm as well. So good banking relationships, good relationships with your accountants, using smart tools, and coming to our workshops and learning.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose the other factor about the farm as a business is you're actually living 24/7 at the office. So, as you mentioned before, to get a break from that is really, really important.
Absolutely. And, I suppose about, when we think about people as retaining good people, growing them, and then in turn attracting new people. So if you've got good people on farm, take them on a journey as you would do in any business. If you're a leader, looking after your team is really, really important. You look after your team, they'll look after the animals, they'll look after the farm, and they might say to you, hey, why don't you take this weekend off and go water skiing or fishing? I've got this. And that's the team that you want around you, don't you? I mean, it doesn't matter what business you've got.
So just finally, your thoughts on the coming year. How do you approach 2022? Are you feeling really positive about it, despite what the world is going through?
Yeah, I think we've been focusing on what we can control, Mark, and looking forward to the future. Summer's always great in New Zealand. Typically, we will get through this, and we'll look back on this time with, it has been stressful. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But it's an industry that's really, really supported, and it's supported by, our dairy processors. It's supported by the likes of, ASB Bank and all of our amazing partners. So I suppose it's really to the dairy farmers, as there's a lot of people behind you, beside you, and in front of you, and it's really, we've got your back.
I love the quote. I read a quote that your favourite quote, I think, from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel, which is a nice mantra, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my other favourite sayings is leaders are dealers of hope. And I think we're all leaders within this industry, and we have to look forward with that, that there is hope. And look, I've lived overseas for a number of years, and New Zealand is an amazing country, and we are so, so fortunate here. And I think sometimes we forget that.
Jules, lovely to chat as always. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll do it again in the new year perhaps. Might even do it face to face, for goodness sake.
I know. Go us. Hey, take care, Mark. All the best, and thanks so much to you and the Country TV team.
Thanks, Jules. That's Jules Benton, the CEO of Dairy Women's Network, and that's our point of view for this week. Look forward to another point of view, same time next week. We'll see you then.